bechór doin an lávan Australia ar Cork agus Kerry istálam sa dáchla hedernach so dúchlan mór doin inniuh.
Brian Sheehan gimmer tir aus ráchúil agus da 3 pointige. Chunta búr nechar berna fuil na tosa heile a scóráil an uritin. Hen an éige Paddy Curtin an chéad an ilstálim.
Well sé ach stólam nach raibh colmach a gimmart sa chluhéidearnach agus ní raibh an forn céanna a gin dáchlathe sa chéile, so tá sé dechar an sin an hocrú síos ach tá déir lána an súlahaine in esta bhínú rí sinú agus stocha gur caliúint mhór éisiúd ach tá cíán ó léir teachtasteach agus hamiligh súl go éróid go meile éisiúd.
Paul Galvin náisiim líana gimmer gohúntaach agus cinreacht dúntaach dáthúirtige. An nearfah bhfuil ról nuaige Galvin im líana seachas blianta elevator?
Neidir tá nach taí ag Paul aníos agus is stocha gúil sé gimmart mar écann sé ar an lá agus tá an gcuile ar eisige agus tá sé déanamh anamh doing líana.
If we let Kerry have too much possession, that they'll punish you and they'll hurt you. So we're just looking at seeing can we improve our performance and stay with it for the 70 minutes.
Kerry have named what would be probably a much stronger team for this week, so how do you face that challenge?
We're just looking at what we can do and where we have strengths and how we can best play as a team. So that's what we've been looking at this week, and just looking forward to the game now.
Consistency might be a bit of a problem the last 10 minutes against Cork and Kerry, so how do you address that?
Quite simply, we made a few mistakes against Cork towards the end of the game. We work on those at training, and we try and improve every time we go out. So we've been continuing that curve. So hopefully today we'll take another step.
Kerry had the number on you here last year in Croke Park. It's a while since he beat them in Croke Park. Does that impinge on the players' minds at all?
Not really, no. We're just looking to perform as good as we can today, regardless of opposition. So we're just looking at what we can do and making sure we do it.
Brian Tyres a Kerry Ishka Fuentas Clochans on the stuff.
There's a late change on the Kerry team with Declan O'Sullivan unavailable. He's replaced in their attack by Kieran O'Leary. It's a serious-looking Kerry team with the likes of Mark O'Shea, Paul Galvin, Darren O'Sullivan and Aidan O'Mahony named along with Colm Cooper. Mayo have lost Aidan O'Shea to injury. That was expected. He's been troubled by a groin injury. Barry Moran takes his place in their 15. Conor Mortimer returns to the forward line with Cillian O'Connor kept in reserve.
Prapáilinis sé hon Dave Carton Gitoig tá gimmert fergan tá gimmert inis an sosan ard chair le Common Parnell Ganain dewer agus tá cúpla trig goite leisige chun an ile ausú begáin tá what's gaimse aige nó mat goile caite agus muo gafachan cín Is Creendírach, Lorna Parke, Susan Sonana Hawaii, Fad again, Mahers, na Frachar Fad. Barry Morn, a lame Joss Hoy Machach near Yin Morn and lamed a hose a Gartney Doyle and Son. Shahun Mayo reached, Claffaga Destinson again, McLaughlin. Donald Vahan, Farber Bradish, Dull, Hunkeen, seeking the 20 factors, Tragadisha again. Colin Boyle, Taka, only Cleon and Hayne. Sé sleps le cheann ó meharach éireach líonús Nis Andy Morn an general pass dastáilt an son aige Bartún aige Cillian Young Aga aige mátá teachtar nais Mortimer agus tá Jason Doherty leistigh do Mortimer leis gitóg agus scór annaigh glóir ar fad agus puntí brátha agus imirt brá aige muos den iomtaí luasa
Yeah, scóíonach an sin ó Conor Mortimer rud ceartar rí sé lí sé do léire dul Harachanna tam sin a chur Cillian Young amach na páca beag anim rumpa cha sé steachar a chusclé an sin agus thar an trast an tús ionach bhd a bhuiá.
Dana hí fós timpplair Lorna Parkinson a choréist mehar ceanna le gafa go díalige Brian Sheehan plúchta go mar san aige dón an bháin agus aige McLaughlin agus mór talún Women Farnarín ard amachchan sa Lágíirech mátá agus Higgins a Garrison amach siúda feide Kieran O'Leary tranhóna Keith Higgins amánaí agus Pellador den Scoil Fersa Morden Imirt anna hóiste Keith Higgins sé an tríú báta sa chlóisteach agus tá fearláistigh Seansaige hénig a chúl beidir Tá point to talk again Keith Higgins or the Chluisteach and son achas toch gref chance Varden.
Ja, gan now fi chance cool and Shane Nanuruho Keith Higgins Sus na Parker leis an Tamer Fad Fire to Anna be and a show. Ach fi chance an show have pass a horse well shockers an show Bejer passes Jaho. Branner show check the shot the fire TV studio and Shane the Milk on a pass a horse to Stoke or a chance and Shane no Kinnick Hart to have on Cooley no I'm sure fresh and off. Say on a ace good off.
Brian Sheehan Martian Rachul Steve Finte is raw score Gadisha again Augustan Head Count I'm shit on
Connery Ogle and TV Exchange in a Mohorum show.
Nish Brewman Saga Kieran Danahy College Gentiger Lee Keegan and Farah Quidach and Bark and Tachikatic and out there Harty Bui Shahun Rish Tex Rish Tan Spa Sachra Ustig Ganafishach Conroy Keen Rish to Shannon right Doherty Lashtig and Lashtig Force Tom Mortimer is like seeking they get Connor Mortimer Nish I was in lead along Huchin Aubrey Biak me who still looks me hooker down line.
Na pass in to Shin Trust in the Parker Brenner show it's Jack with Connor Mortimer Marco and Marco Shayak Killian Young of the attracted in einer day Anawag Connor Mortimer her
I'm sure this thing we are going to vla clear Marsha Rihirashi Gartla agus Schlicht nieder mag gederde an Tranonesen hè Daniel met katje goulesh agus ma chun sé seo har sé dras ná beshid anna hásta go deo in bhfuil déanta go dtí seo hocha agus seo isteach go deas aige gan an bhatún
Sean Osaka we over Hannah Crane Jack not change she'd couple of cooling contest agus Aurora to find for na cooler Nagonia Colu
Charvalian Tubern so Jason Gibbons Stachadi Morn Dina Roger Valho Dina Mayo because the Roger Valho Morn Yishka Merlon to see Bader Alan Dillon Trish Bjarna Anna Vogel Chaim Shoe and Son Augustans Club Lesheim to get Peg Jacko Connor Nick Cameron Leshim Gussin the Son
Yeah, I'm Brew Charto Kerry do spoiler because in Chin Shasta there agus who Alan Dillon Roy Ruher agus Fariant of Wow have score more shot I'm sure Stoker nach will Kerry thrice toss it even hin Shin Gachtin a Brano din Eganella Hun and Javi and Vigart Shin and Fiolo Kevin McLaughlin Rivishin for a quarter Guido
Shantani Vaughan Bader Deering is kind of Jack O'Connor Rimship Flags door check of den flew across the Cheshire nu Schachter den Verden doorche So Ben Affitchet Kid van Gier de Stigler heen Gier de Fad Ní leabhar ach go mé scoiteach ige seote an lá an uachtar a gháil agus fnacht chun cíine tá. Nis dana hístig, take go fad se gataíon agus anna chiic fad gan éon bhrúir a dhealróch sé agus bun an caide áirt faointe go Cooper.
Stoker gra 3 lira the who Jack River Shin a hánig Ger Cafferty go mat leis agus ní chance gan Gouge Stoker chuid skill na husband Brenner Shin lira the one Brannin she was Haran Trust and scoring into qua.
David Clark Martian no Stefanik Villanova leis an gigamach. Recht vanished door dan ik saast Stecha dro Jason Gibbons a butcher nash get Kerry agus Sheehan Cuin Gomagadisha Brian Sheehan O'Leary Tassan Tuggy Cooper and Dove Corner Gallagher Gildene ach near Edition Tan about agus caithigh Mayo fála muid sin mar bhíonn si cá íoch lána cruig tapig feachta get Paul Galvin agus an cuairla buid to get siúd imirt bhí lacht war an dáir agus Cooper agus anna bhí háast agus sin chuir nuair get an moltóir Penny atá dóna geribe I get Cooper ach idir an dálín Alan Dillon agus Flí
Mohorum se
Is fear chachar sa bhín fiheh le rathe istig O'Leary fan of Aragoni Galvin inish shot Tachari Curtin Geshu agus tá Garras a versa Nat Choma Kiana an sort painte a rangen och a Beidir in eigene an vanished ora.
Yeah, Anna wa pass into what Trust Park Paul Galvin is Chuck Paddy Curtin agus bunch say Lloyd return show fresh and condol share agus an lyric her and Trust on Kerry attack the shocks to click up Clay Bjogani in ish.
Anna vertig diant ge hen an ein tarna dunne is mo score na godisha Queenig na Colm Cooper ko gan out krieg mu dernach ach vai vai agus Tá tunnachige chúsaí le tríoch le nús go háirithe. Seo fearr go mín tunnach ar a gcónaige chúsaí Galvin. Bid nó meithnaí, thug sé tamil mar lán chulaí sa trach na chumar an scéal go bheith siúd beidir tachan cín Brazen fé láthir don Nancy sin gantí bhrí sé. Ciarán O'Leary le ciúis na bróige. Díreach leistigh don gúile agus peinte anna heastar fad na gceith fearr na grócach.
Ar aus ar fad, tháinig sé chun cín ar Keith Higgins ar dús bair, agus brené sin thar an trasna le kick tíomh don bró ceanna ag tú Brian Dúthar dhéanamh de an an seo de tírónach. Ar aus ar fad ó Ciarán O'Leary, agus tá sé go mór isteach sa cluiche inis ag lurag an léir ag aimimsú daoine le pasan agus ag scóráil mar sin ar aus ar fad.
Mar sin 3 pointe as sa chéala ag Ciarán sin achar chuig neomad na mar sin agus crutahad níos fearr ar choláir a scóir. Tá féinte de bhar na nisan agus a rééis na Ciarán in uachtar sa tríon láir sin. Kelson methe os ciún Ciarán O'Leary agus Keith Higgins gafa siar. Gan inge Coréan tá. Stachgarí O'Leary, Keith Higgins. Dír a geisiú de stop. Paul Galvin amó agus lasma fós tá Brian Maguire ach sé mehar a joige seo fearr go agus ceann mór díomhar seoltas deach a geisiúd ach ealaíonta ar a hunsan agus pointe breile.
Ja, sin forna bhfuil compórach le imróí teachsúas ó thaobh scórna ghlacha an tam sin. Imróir leis an léirad ná tosaíach sásta go leir chu trasna Park a rís áit bhfuil spás agus brení ar Anthony Maran seo ceann mór mílteach ar an trasna an sin a chuspáin sin compórt Kerry.
Na seachtain se caiite béidir. Dianta má get Conroy could have fáil get the Mortimer. Cáir tastáil inis agus ní léana chair techt á Lorna Parke a ceann stána isteach go des. McLaughlin más féidir sé héine oscailte tá ó ghrain Brian Maguire.
Mar a léirad. Is ceann mai sin is tóchar in immert clisté sin ó tosaí agus seansa chuna Mortimer beidir an brean oscail slús beagán níos mór ís.
Se bhí rach má an gamar leistíir den gúlar sin agus tá éidir le fearmhaí ó an chiic sé ar a bheala an sa. Agus chuirigh Mortimer é seo taim déanach thar sé drasnáin agus beag chuigcín an sannaige. Trícín bhreatha an imirt, nó gáiche an bhreatha an imirt agus trícín an chiic na séire.
Ja, scórt tábhachta sin bhí.
Té scéala Cooper agus tá sí sin áard a heisteach go hana heasar fad aige.
Agus tóchar mar tosaí agus tú teach síos na Park mar sin níl tú gur a bheith dhéanamh an ris sin
Lorna Parke níos. Peter Crowley, her naiscrí sin agus roicin is gur na cúlaí. Tucha sé a gitóig agus sé an dábhar a chéige sin na gitóig nó an deasóg agus glúiseach anna heasige Kerry agus tá míidir chotharach.
Bhís a léis na pápar ís cúibh línas fé cheap me go raibh sin sin an sin a thuspáint an sin ach líocht sús na Park go ar ionta chuáid a Kerry a réhan sra go léir ach brenéir an pás seo isteach chuige compórach léir a chus jas casan sé isteach ar a chus clé thar an trasna agus scóir ionta chuáid a Kerry cóscóir inis.
Mar sin Sénio mund goile na mar sin dul go ceann scríbe sa chéad leis seo. Ceann má buirte san air Gibbons agus dianta go maith gin líróid a scuile bhuaig chomá. Sún cín Bergenson a gé ciln younger Conor Mortimer scuilte thar sé géad í Kinsella. Obair Vahanson a gé sin an ag híríocht perseachtaid a gé Galvin thar ag eile. Andy Moran bhí sé túirt fé bháid an son. Agus denú bertas de Kerry agus focail a chrua chuile na chéile.
Ja, mé an sin Galvin na cháil sé chuid chosach seansaí ionta chuaig Andy Moran. Bhí sé ggéireach a maid ísisiil his Galvin chun talamh an sin fiochach sús ionta go Andy Moran. Is tócha bhfuil go mór chuid in na fórna ggéire immert fear mór os cór an cruúil so feicimid chuid ebrá sé do bhíón is.
Nis McLaughlin tá na cosaige ar Maguire í áróch sé, Seachgarí Mortimer caid Vahanson ag McLaughlin luadan do sín ar deisigus de cúlathe prapáil de san sin áirt scóir ag Mayo.
Áirt scóir gan dát is tócha le hán ba Conor Mortimer go lurach beidir Craig an cléad rééis an leis bhfuil trééis bheith ag a sé chulína bhfuil aimim sé go trícín an immert a chu spáanta tamar fad os cór agus sásta go láir. Hílas féin go rinne sé go háá an tab sin sé éon gur barta go dul go dtíon léir agus beidir go bhí a láidirach bugan níos mó ná bhí ag Michael Conroy an tam sin anna chaibhland.
Galvin inis, Sian Sagarí Maguire. Gaffistag, Sanam Brescia, Nunam Kutu Corte, Potuna Lige Kerry. Second game Mayo, can I attack with Ken Spare? The Viogs, Brescia Samuel, Hennigagus, Mahar Nushi, and Yishkin to Narka Hela Larna Park.
Yeah, well, it's far more or fresh than Aiden Chimpa Larna Park and Shin, Visher Rose Kujisho, Rehan Shravisher, Hina Gunya Blackley, his Cushion Varak, Nero Maho's Coram Cool and Shin.
Shab Conroy Rish, Lady and the Gecko Heinig, and Glech Bachtigio Dylan, Agastashi Shin Kuradin the Cooley, a very cowing Vado, the Dynamite, again Alan Dylan Achtasach and the Vra Risht, the Gamoyolish and Tarna Lasha.
Yeah, past Mahamak with Galen Dylan, August Haran Trustin and Shin, two smart than we all Rish and show. Tavat Gomaishi than on by
Goodisha, August Tati Vala, and of Dara again Mayo, on the Valican Barkanish, Deshika, Kerry, Stachet, Geshin and Sun's boss, Kieran O'Leary. Well, the Shannon Lie had to walk. Yet Fire Leon Ledarnach, Stunning or Hitchade, or Stolen Son.
Yeah, so just a plan where and Mayo will throw no car team player because currently the lava mark is struck into Contala Vegas. Look at the chance to Colin Cooper score all. Ochnar, Branishig, or here he can score, I'm sure, Herbe.
With the Stachlin, the Kitog, you get Cooper. Mission Clahe, Ta Ishel Goma, or have score all, a Gabintish or Peskel, and Queen Deshina, Hul. Die chance again, die Morn, Kakor, Jere, and Fiat Lashnach, Berg, Machdeshan Zonish, again, Kerry, Cooper, Stachan Curtin, has to go tacht, Lashtig, the Hela Cork, as within chance late, and so, Kerry, Sugary, Galvin, Tashianor, the which he father, Agus Crane, and Lohen, Targa, Dynambashed.
Kate score on Immertech, Paul Galvin, pass Maho. Colin Cooper and Machna Parker near Ranishay Roval, Noravisha Thusa there and Tom Shill, Agus Husha Heron Traston, Scorma the Kerry, Norish V Lashan School, like Patrick Curtin Rivishin, Beja Golakshay, Umrachas and Lera before the way of Willan, and Kaydor Warshay.
So that James O'Donoghue is taking
pass Ellen Shaw, pass Arash, Blaner and Block and Shin, Ian Tukwa. Her lag in a love, and the more in Fluxus Sus, well, Branish.
Agus Shanson Sahinish. I get Brian Sheehan and Chursia Hardamoonsa. Agus and Vertient to Gadas again.
The response.
Nish O'Donoghue. Keith Higgins could have logged Nafishach again. Tough to Shear. Khafadli Galvin. Stechan Joe O'Donoghue put their house of Fatsenair again. Darren O'Sullivan and Maltor Kudahoy get Darren O'Sullivan and Pete James O'Sullivan on the Kerry Gaffin Keen.
Brother Gowell show Kieran Donahue, Farad Lero, Donald Van Fui Lero, Brader Bugani Rolua, well Neil Mercone Eskendok, Gowell into what Rastuk Darren O'Sullivan couldn't score Shina I'm sure. Gowell Chart, Branner show, Rudegan Eskend, Ozzy Rules, okay, V on Gloon, Keach says Rimig and Kian Shin, O'Connor Gowell, like some passion, got Darren O'Sullivan, O'Haven Coolin Shin.
Shagaston Gideonson, Agustin
Keshta Warshay, Lero no Warshay, Darren O'Sullivan, Shin and Rudda Toshi Garrow going free, so by she clished. Gone down near Warshay, Lero for a cuss, Darren O'Sullivan and Shin, Nidolum Groshay Lava, Yanam Fell, Branner Shaw Reach, Road Happy Bajer, Nidolum go Warshay, Lero than Tom Shin, so Nidolum go Wilmore and go Jay to Shave Garrow free.
Batuna Bahaga, Keith Higgins, here doing on Fell Shun of Indinik Macht, Sushir, Trust in the Park, Agus Dinachan Batun, Agus Donahue. Hanshech, Niksha, Darren O'Sullivan, their Human Giri, Tachtastach and Son, Agashinan, Cool, you paint as a Hela, they get Kirinish.
Agus a bug of what needs for Stoker would have been my own of a guard to Kate, like Dorst Way shot, Satrok look fresh and Vordor Lear, Agus Kershey, the Stockhouse Cork, a lady Connor Mortimer, Freshen House Cork, Michael Conroy.
So down club. Crowley-ish. Donnacha Walsh. Búteach order reached in a Corchigansa and dealer via Oklahoma. Fifth Shinda Batun and Master Gulaha. James O'Donoghue Tarka Shin. Kadasahanigan Coulson.
Well, the Donnacha Walsh, Laura Kieran Donahue. Call Kieran Donahue and Lear, the Tonic Shay Traston and Shaw. Quick James Donahue is talking go Warshay and Brisha. Cool Boyer, Mock Topic Galora, Brinja James Donahue Gaman here. Swina Shay Fire Corrib, just Hershey and Huslesh and Lear, the Shacks and Lean down, because Custom Orsa Cleha and Sean Ish. Is talking go Warshay, Cleggan Kieran Donahue and Tom Shin, Conchact Traston Quick James Donahue. Branner Shaw, Kinnick Hart, Gone and Lear the Fiocasus, Shacks and Lean down, because cool boy amach tappa galorach.
Well, Campus go flip on now the tacht camera Campus in a gate guest go very short to Jack Barrymore nach skirn sich on roig. Wacht Andy Moore agus flecha shortage the Kerry Ganishgus a school or the north of Sichidla. Shigri Kevin Keane. Hartenish. Killian Young Catagog agus tá Barna Quintamach again Hart agus Conham nar Screecher week. None of Yaga faint again. Leshke Engde for a third fest to score and so they're dead here Colin Boyle in lane who was the tosser couldn't say could have even cut and scores and
yeah could be chance and shin rivision like Patar Branner show chance and show the Shakira you know immortality in Lero Cotton Shay Lero the Rash Rinyana didn't look on walk on and pass the Curtis Jackarish and show agus an sin an score ma an sin o Colin Boyle kun we o horta Rash Strux a clay on show Bjorn ganin ro wall leis an Lero de gan am mi ceart is tóca
Cheir faint dad and so comes mar house a Tullach Moore
Kevin Hines again Rachel of all of Toshi Fotek Hines or Derek
Ardu Manna Manella and so and a cut of da faint Satana Lash Gadisha agus Mortimer rock ball in order hishtin John Van Facht gas Satana La Rochon Sichidla Wish good to go Alex on the hot Pagashi and agus Dina Father Hohen or kick it what
na sin ar aus ar fad a Branner sin Branner order can Lero to say a dull Haran trust and gun Sweeney Fair and Lero to say agalach bro Branner show ar an order atá ag dull Haran
the Barnavi and Sansa Hida ite get Kerry agus quid vad the son the var Immerha Anthony Maher Stoilem and so Coleman BFO so fall a dishing cut Demon Vadun how did you should get down and son agus Galvin a reached agus top kick about and just again Kinsler that became to deja vu
Doch Reto Kieran Donaghy at time Shin and will Corton have run on Paul Galvin he don't go will and Ballach will Eddie Kinsler and he has to go Shin so fast O'Donoghue well passed Shin fuckled over his fighter around
Turplish dear
Fiol and show Gente Paul Galvin Lennon Shay Leshes Jocks Carnogan Shin so much Tasha Thresh kick Eric O'Hort Branner Shin and Branner Kieran Donaghy Tall Leshlock with quarter fight I got chance
Van had to give a Prabadine team from the heart had Hart Martin Leshin kick oh now the go hall again father get hurt Neil Ross switch to go forward and find the ammunition
and a creek of Pat Hart come now Aller Shin the creek into Quaho Haven kick Pino Shin chance and Ishig Mayo Trino Keranomer the Immert Bayan Brescia freshen and show agus chance and Shin Brenner Shin is Jackson Cunha gan chance ar bihig Brendan Keeley stop a cur Shin agus anish Lero more team for Lord of Parker
Ish Cormac Keeley Mach Harish Devlina Yetting Jering Hassan Gaffa Paul Galvin and Son Tristan Hallie Shoot Wigach Lanomidna on the Merton Slowinish to go home to Clash get Colin Boyle they should have walked the Nash Killian O'Connor if he Khoma Henrik will College get the tall Colin Boyle avoid or Hayden Son Nakan Devlina Agus well Club good close at James Hornanish Neelan Nee Bra Shahuin Agus Nabi Kite score bra Iran Alison Bro Hamid Khar
Nishin
Ni kharik bain shin for Ele Mata and hit scores and down pressure machine
score on cool mar show to Capico will Brian Sheehan Conne Car Haran Trasnan
Shin Dravatun Carton Son game already Voyo Jack McDackda lead the game Augustin Sprakaimshe Shake and Varley Stachan Sagli Killian O'Connor Schliedian the game O'Connor the Heinig agus Shin Paint Dun Geertz Gohanson Christian Talamalo and Shin Enright Achrohigan's boss
score man Shin O'Killian O'Connor Capico Russia Biogan no other mock on cool and Tom Shin Dent go Mahaga Chuck the Shocker Shane Enright I guess a Car Haran Trasnan and Shin Shocker
I think about James Horn and Son near of Sheshut Rohasta Shiginach Knitted Anthony Maher Shachan Sochavadle O'Donoghue Keith Higgins Kurahage Barry John Keane Kuchta got hauling her fad an fear díreach takeach an parke agus score ciniú na fachtge.
Yeah, Rose, because the reach James O'Donoghue, I'm Shell Nero, because Cork Higgins for Rowan Shin, kind of fast, Curtis Jock and Shore, quick Queen, Conor Kerr and Traston and Tom Shin. I can't talk James O'Donoghue, far with Tracy, Martano and Shaw, Honig Chase Jock and Bork.
Is Richie Feeney de Vio, Alan Dillon Ross, Shin Pass Maherstach, Maravellis Moss Bosch, Colin Boyle in Ish, Darren O'Sullivan, attacked last year, the son, agus. Dog Shatigan Multor, agus Richard and Lortla Darren O'Sullivan. Cueing again, good three Kayla. Barry John Keane, agus Paintella, Fachtige, Horch on the Nish, O'Hanish Eshtach.
Yeah, no one Shellery, Brenner and Pashaw, Colin Cooper, Trashto, the Chapagraph Yell Gentero, Kagamac, Barry John Keane, Count Chinnaker, Haran Trasnon, who saw Chay and Fustic Machon and score Shinnakin too.
But Gilly Dolan Sarnish, agus Seeking. Oscar into Lauren na Hoide. Brisha Fachten so Mayo, Danny Garrity, Shakari Dillon, Donald Vaughan, Clehan a Clash, Vaughan and Isha Gemacht Clash Cossadorde, Stachni here, Colin Boiler East, Nisha Meg Omagagus, Shans, oh, she couldn't live again. Lisa Ra and Machans again, Hush a Luska.
I shouldn't have our father, I mean, Brandon Shaker, Throne of her. Team player knock Rashan Sarbiha gun Lero Chinnaker and Ainach Balak Egan Kershaw Cus team player agus Branner Shaws Jack Salinta and Contalavan Shin Burgess Strachas Creoke Tokwa
Paul Daniels Nisavara Wachal
Shin Book Red John Cool Grace Panlan Shin Ni Brandy Chigul 3 Coolina for my own shot of Cool Castle agus Branner Shin
agus Ardu Manaman Dukrete ag a pointe seo cúignom goile dul Hanis mód a bhaintre bhuión san amar há a bhaintre chiarí agus tá siad le clos go saléir na lag le roin claí ach tá siad a críochtú go láidir a me siad a bhisteach a Richie túd fé cheannaile héad sé ceanna bháin ar fóraín tá sean tá go tuach a lecha iad go hénig tá si chorachar se trastáin i gé Richie Feeney agus a bine an scór ciniúnach
Machanta Krogok an sin no Richie Feeney bhí butú nega Nís Louis ar a chuirse ar fóréalach Dan sé leis ná credit in it féin chun an scóir sin aimseo agus Haran Traston agus Branner an clór scóir is tócha Muochan Keane ar Coolín amháin.
Well, is mód in a dhéanaan tagart le bhaintre bhuió agus ní chun gurtha dus do claí.
Tá mé ceappa go Eddie Kinsley is muoine bhar Shadow an fadóg a sé den seo ach tá seantan is é Brian Sheehan cóscóir bheith acu. Pass me cheart an seo ba chódó a churtha an Traston an státe sin ag Johnny Buckley ar chop Paul Galvin an Lera nuair thuair sé chun talamh ag a rís.
Tá sí chuir chlé gehfuil agus ar fóraí agus tá chléir lechan a spúrte a Mayo agus ord bhú go dó sé an ní dónn go bhecinn mór an nas mu a bhío seo techt ach tá siad idir
Week in Tralee, extra time needed to separate them, but Mayo it is who go through to the league final. 2:15 to Kerry's 1:17.
Yeah, Mayo showing a lot of character in that match and coming good in that extra time period. Tony Davis, you know, that was impressive from Mayo because for a while in this league campaign, they lost their way a little bit, but they've come good in the last couple of weeks. The big win over Dublin, the result down in Tralee, and of course that win today.
Yeah, well, I think the win today is very important for them. You know, it showed they were under pressure through the game with Kerry, and to Kerry they were playing in Croke Park. They never give up, they stuck in there. They were very aggressive in their defensive thing, and I suppose the important thing is they were able to close it out. You know, in the end of it, when they came back, they were able to get those scores, which up to here now Mayo weren't able to do that. But I think this year, like we saw hints of it last year, we saw against Dublin how they can play. They're developing into a very good team.
Yeah, from a Kerry point of view, Colin, it's unusual to see them, as we've seen once or twice lately, losing a lead in a match.
Well, we saw it in the All-Ireland final, I suppose, and they won't like to be reminded of that because they still can't figure out how they lost that match. And again today, they had a 4-point lead, seemed to be in total control of the game. Kieran Donaghy kicks a crossfield pass which is intercepted, and again game runs away from them. So Kerry and 4-point leads don't seem to work very well in knockout games in Croke Park at the moment, and it will have stung them, even though a lot of people say Kerry won't mind the fact that maybe they're not meeting Cork again, but yet they still like to win, and the last few years has shown us that league form does hold in the championship.
One of the reasons, perhaps, Tony, why they lost that lead was through some of their own endeavours, if you know what I mean, because Mayo's got a couple of their scores, quite a few of their scores in actual fact, from
The Rebels from Cork are without Graham Canty. Goalkeeper Alan Quirk returns to number 1. The most influential line could turn out to be once again the inside line of Colm O'Neill, Aidan Walsh and Donnacha O'Connor. The Turley brothers, Damien at cornerback and Peter wing forward, are named in a Down starting 15. Ambrose Rogers starts for Down against Cork for the first time ever, and along with Calum King could prove a formidable partnership in the middle of the field. In attack, Mark Poland and Conor Laverty have been doing well, but much still depends on the form of Benny Coulter. It's a bitterly cold afternoon in Croke Park. But for the footballers of Cork and Down, it'll be the temperature that'll be bothering them, and to see whether or not they can produce a winning performance. Crossfield ball is aimed at Colm O'Neill. He's scored 2 goals and 9 points in this campaign so far. Coming through his own Callaghan. First chance of a score for Cork. The difference between the two teams, perhaps. Pierce O'Neill availing of the space and the opportunity to put Cork in front. First score of the game. Mark Poland comes out to gather.
Support the play!
Long ball inside towards Laverty. Gets a touch on. There's a chance of a goal! But he takes his points. The Cork full back line split wide open here. Really, Laverty, if he composed himself, he really could have had a crack at beating Alan Quirk. Running onto it is Aidan Carr. Arthur McConville showing early. Benny Coulter having a lash. Great score. All-star footballer, international rules player, Benny Coulter with his first point. Over this side is Aidan Walsh, who, as you can see, has 14 on his back. Normally we watch him at the middle of the field, but this league has seen him operating at the edge of the square. Lovely little jink by Colm O'Neill. 3 down footballers around him, and he still manages to squeeze it over the bar. Good score. They're beating the drum and playing the bagpipes, 2 of Cork's finest. Good running again off the ball as Cork love to use the fisted pass as much as possible. Pierce O'Neill and Kerrigan do a bit of a 1-2 between them. Calum King comes in to challenge. Great run by O'Neill and a wonderful score. It's his 2nd point of the match. And a very good score. Brendan McVeigh looking at various options before going down the middle route. Patrick Kelly flicking it back. Good interception. And Mark Poland. Benny Coulter. Great ball across again to Poland, who started the move. What about the finish? If this curls over the bar, it's a wonderful score. Fantastic football by Down. That was the Poland-Coulter double act. Great score. Paul Kerrigan is available. Nice through ball. That was Colm O'Neill. Not hanging about with any fancy play, but hitting it sweetly between the posts. Cork go back in front by 6 points to 5, but O'Neill is already posing problems for the county of Down. Damien Turley taking up the running, gives it to his brother Peter. At the edge of the square, it's big Calum King. Conor Laverty, nice little jink inside. Can he score, having done all the trickery? The most important thing is he can plant the ball between the posts with a lovely piece of skill. And good football again by Down. Calum King was involved. Conor Laverty provided the magic. It's his 3rd point of the game. Mark Poland, nowhere really to go. Half blocked by Aidan Walsh. Rebounds to Benny Coulter. There's a chance here. If he hits it, connects with it, and he does. and that is the fullback, Brendan McCardle. Arthur McConville lays it off as Aidan Carr, pumping the ball in high. Now who is here? Benny Coulter over the bar, but who was marking him? Or who at least was supposed to be marking him, because there was nobody home for Cork. And just for a moment, there was a chance here for Benny Coulter. A green flag rather than a white one. Paddy Kelly saw the pass, the intended pass, read it well. Gould is doing all the hard work here. Backfires Kerrigan. Going to have a lash, and it's a pretty good effort. It's a great effort. It's Paul Kerrigan's third point of the match. Conor McGinn is calling in the middle. Two Cork players, defenders, are over there. Goes back outside towards Peter Turley. Pass is given to Aidan Carr. Hits it on the turn. It is a fantastic point. Wonderful score by Aidan Carr. Gerald Sullivan, Cork selector, with a yellow bib. Down manager James McCarthy beside him. Ball given away. Paul Kerrigan floats one in. Coming through is O'Neill. He's deadly from here. He really is a class act. Colm O'Neill knows exactly where to put the ball. Brilliant move that split open the down defence. Right man, right place, cracked it home. That's a goal and 4 points now for Colm O'Neill. Aidan Carr. Down far is Mark Poland. Down towards Caelan King, who's taken up residence at the edge of the square. Back far is Benny Coulter. Nice scale, good control. What about the finish? It's good enough. He still is the man in the crisis to deliver the goods. Goes the long ball towards McConville, and who touched the glass? Still not gone. Oh, that's well done. First Caelan King. It's rolling in. It's touched along the ground. The ball was fouled by the defender, and that is a penalty. McConville did very well. Caelan King's effort just coming off Alan Quirk. Jerry O'Sullivan touched the ball on the ground, and it's a penalty. This was bobbling all over the place. McConville, they'll debate about whether the ball was over the end line or not. McConville did well here, seemed to touch him there. Now, was it gone out over the end line or not? Tight call. So Aidan Carr facing Alan Quirk. Oh, well, that's how you take a penalty. Brilliant. Unstoppable. And from being 6 points down after about 40 minutes of action, down are back in the game. 113, 111. Dennis O'Sullivan flicking it back for his Donnacha O'Connor. Goalkeeper comes off his line, he drops it, and it's in the back of the net. Alan O'Connor will take the gift from the down goalkeeper and say thank you very much. Goalkeeper should have stayed on his goal line. Easy for Alan O'Connor to rattle the net. And suddenly you've sensed that it's game over and Down are out of the Allianz National Football League. The referee blows the full-time whistle, but long before the 70th minute had arrived, Cork had this game in the bag. 2 goals in the second half, one by Colm O'Neill, who ended up with a goal at 6 points. The other by Alan O'Connor, after a goalkeeping mistake by Brendan McVeigh, gives Cork victory and a place in the final on a full-time score of Cork 217, down 112.
Yeah, less in it on the scoreboard than there really was in it, I think, in the run of play. However, it is Cork who make it through to another Football League final. And Colin Burke, they won their All-Ireland 2 years ago. But in terms of the league, Cork have been very consistent the last couple of years. This is their third final if you take the Division 2 final 3 years ago.
Yeah, Cork are probably the most consistent county team in the country over the last 5 years. They've been involved in All-Ireland semi-finals, finals, league finals. So they've a marvellous level of consistency, and they have built up a very big panel as well. A lot of very good players, a lot of them now coming back from injury. Colm O'Neill, Daniel Gould and Kieran Sheehan. They're going to be a serious threat to everybody this year. But today it seemed like a bit of a challenge match, or the opening of a pitch in the summer for most of the first half. There was no physicality about it. There was no atmosphere, I suppose, not helped by the small crowd. And it really was a sort of going through the motions, it appeared, for a lot of the time. And when Cork wanted to, they seemed to be able to up the tempo of the game whenever they liked.
And despite that, and despite the fact they've made another final, there's a lot of people down in Cork who'll be telling Conor Coonahan how he should be doing things.
But sure, there'll be people doing that anyway. You know, I suppose the team has been hugely consistent. I just tried to find out a while ago. I think in 5 years they've lost 7 games in league and championship. And as Colm said, they got to the concluding stages of all those things. So it's very hard to please people. I suppose people look at their style sometimes and say it's very lateral and pedantic. They're trying to do something about that by putting Aidan Walsh in full forward and changing it around a bit, which was quite successful again today. But I thought Down did well in the first half today, but the goals did him again today.
They did, and that was a point that Tony, we were talking about this earlier on, that Tony was saying those goals have been fatal to Down against Cork, and that certainly proved to be the case.
Yeah, the games between Cork and Down have adopted a similar style over the last 3 in particular. Down keep with Cork for a while, and then in the last 15 minutes Cork just completely take over and burn them off. And it was the goals today. Brendan McVeigh comes out for a high ball. He doesn't get it. Alan O'Connor has an easy job. And I suppose we're going to see more of that with the change to the square ball rule coming in. Paddy Kelly, who was very busy today, very unselfish. And Colm O'Neill, who really had a spectacular game today, scoring a goal and 6 points. And he was everywhere. His kicking was fantastic. He kicks the ball very high. And Cork have an awful lot of left-footed players, which means it's more difficult to mark them, and especially when they get Goulding and Sheehan back, and there's O'Neill off his right foot. So it's going to be a big problem for Conor Coonahan picking a forward line, because really have added a lot more to it with Aidan Walsh in there at full forward, and they can kick the ball in long, and then they have the pace of Kerrigan and O'Neill coming through. So Cork now are shaping very well.
Just briefly, Tony, to come back to something Colm was talking about earlier on there, the venue today. I heard our radio colleagues going on about this, the lack of atmosphere, the fact that it should have been played someplace else apart from Croke Park with the team, with Kerry in it, Mayo, Cork, obviously, and so on.
I suppose the first thing to acknowledge here is that things are tight now and people just won't travel anymore. And Cork and Kerry traditionally won't travel to Croke Park this time of year. It's hard to get them up for an All-Ireland semi-final, never mind for a National League. So it is hard, and there was no atmosphere. And that game, Cork and Down, well, when the goal went in, it was over, and it's not good for advertising the game, you know. Sure. Even if you're playing, you like to have some bit of buzz going on, and you know, any provincial ground probably would be better than Croke Park today.
I think it would be better, actually, the way things are now, that there's 4 teams, that whoever finishes first and second get home venue for the semi-finals, because a minibus would have brought all the Cork supporters today, and a couple of big buses would have brought all the Kerry support. So, you know, if it was a Saturday night game, maybe Páirc Uí Rinn, and a Sunday game today in Tralee, you probably would have had very big crowds.
All right, but in any event, lads, let's confirm then the Football League final fixtures. The Division 1 final will be contested by Mayo and Cork, while the Division 2 decider is Kildare versus Tyrone, and those games to be played on April 29th. I think we should also mention another match today, actually, probably the best game of the day. This is the one between Wicklow and Clare, which was important in deciding, Colm, who finished in Division 4, the top of Division 4.
Yeah, it probably would have been the best.
County Laois. Now, the venue reflecting on the fact that a Laoisman, Liam O'Neill, was installed as the new president of the association, taking over from Christy Cooney. And we wish him well over his next 3 years in office. Really, I suppose there wasn't too much, gentlemen, out of this year's annual Congress. Maybe, perhaps, Colm, the biggest talking point was the change of the rules in relation to the square ball.
Yeah, and that was trialled 2 years ago, and it was a great success, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't maintained, and I think it's great to have it
and
back.
Just briefly to explain to people what's it
entails. Well, a forward can now be in the square once the ball is kicked outfield. So, you know, the old rule was unenforceable because you couldn't be in the square before the ball, and you had all these dodgy decisions. Like Kildare have suffered badly as a result. Suffered badly as a result of it. But now you may have the big man kick it in high, he can go in, and it's a pity too that they have this
You
thing.
used to be in the square all the time when the rules, when the rules are different.
That's where a poacher is supposed to be. But the other thing they should have done away with, they should have allowed the charge on the goalie as well. And